What's up, guys? Max here, back with another episode of the ScuttleButt Show. I want to say what's up to everybody in the chat, and I want to say what's up to my special guest, Dash Wong, Navy SWCC, who's got a great story, and we're going to have a great conversation today. Dash, how are you doing?
I'm doing awesome, man. Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, thank you for coming on. I know everybody in the chat is excited to have you here. It's going to be a super fun episode, and a lot of people, so there's people in the chat right now, just for your heads up, who are thinking about joining the Navy. They're thinking about joining Special Forces, all the different branches of the military. We've got veterans, prior Navy, everything you can imagine like is happening right now in the chat. So everyone's excited to see you. It's going to be incredible. Maybe first things first, if you could introduce yourself really quick to the audience for me.
Sure. My name is Dash Wong, as you said. Former U.S. Navy SWCC for 15 years. Born and raised in Honolulu, Hawaii, and was forced medically retired due to cancer. They removed my right lung and went down that whole pathway, but I've been in remission now for 2 years. And now I'm a huge advocate for the Navy SEAL Foundation, as well as a regional manager for Killcliff.
That's awesome. And if you guys don't know, Killcliff makes really delicious sports drinks. I've been actually drinking Killcliff for a long time. Before I knew that they were Navy SEAL founded, they used to just be in like CrossFit gyms that I would go to. And I'm like, oh, what's this? A nice, refreshing drink after a workout. And so that's really cool. And you've got so much cool stuff to share. But I feel like the right way to start the whole thing is what even got you in the Navy? How did you end up going SWCC? What is SWCC? You know, let's take it back to how you got started from Hawaii to the Navy to SWCC.
Yeah, right on. So yeah, growing up in Hawaii, I actually grew up homeless. I was raised in a pretty rough childhood. Grew up in Child Protective Services, so didn't have a strong family dynamic or culture to really hold me down to the island, as a lot of my friends would like to say. So going in high school, I joined the Air Force JROTC program, and it really kicked off my mindset to be military focused, and I loved everything they did. I joined their Special Forces program, and I was all about like physical challenges, whether it was push-ups, pull-ups, running, you name it. I was super competitive, and I just and I was the colonel of the Air Force JROTC program, and I got a letter from our governor, it was Linda Lingo at the time, and she wrote a letter to get me accepted to the academy, which I did. The downside was my package got turned in late, so I had to wait until the following class, which was no big deal at the time looking back at it. But at 17 years old, like, you feel like you only have minutes to make a decision. And
True.
I'll never forget my buddy. He was a big surfer at the time. He might be actually watching the show. So Wiley, if you're watching, we got together. He's like, dude, I'm joining the Navy. And if we graduate and make it, we're gonna get $40,000. And I've never had money. I've never been, And I looked at him. I was like, "What? Like, you gotta be getting like screw the Air Force. Yeah, I'm gonna go do that." And looking back, and I'm like, and of course I have a lot of Air Force friends now, and they were pararescuers and whatnot. I'm like, you guys have it good compared to the places that we slept. And you guys are always in Marriott's, and I'm in barracks. But
yeah,
I wouldn't change that decision for anything. I was so thankful that I did. And the kicker was when I went to the recruiter and I told him I wanted to go under a SWCC contract, I was laughed at. I was 120 pounds wet, scrawny little 5'7" dude. I don't think I even hit puberty at the time. They were like, this is probably not the right program for you, kid. Like, there's plenty of other things we can do for you. And I was like, nah, I'm going to do it. I want to do it. And I crushed my PRTs, crushed the ASVAB and whatnot. And off I went to boot camp, which my military career, which I'm excited to share.
That's, for everybody listening, one thing that you said there, just for everybody listening who is, getting ready to join, if you're in JROTC, if you're thinking about joining, don't think that it's all PT. You have to, get that academics too. You have to that's the thing. You actually hit on a couple things there. One is you have to have the academics to back up the physical, because you can be physically qualified for special warfare training, but not have the aptitude for it. And then the other thing was when they tell you they don't think you're going to make it, that's test number one. That's the first screener right there. Is you have to go, nah, I'm fine. I'm good. I'm here. I'm here for the challenge.
They're very convincing in their demeanor. The way they pitch it to you too is like, this is like, we get it. We've seen this before. Like, you're a stud at all this pull-ups and stuff, but we're telling you there's something better for you in the Navy. And we want to find it for you. Is how he tried to explain it to me, and I was just like, nah, dude, 40 grand. Like, let's go.
Yeah.
Which people can laugh at me now, but look at I never shot a gun, never drove a boat. I didn't do any of that stuff, but I knew after, like, I watched some of the recruiting videos they had, and I was like, so I get to drive around Navy SEALs for the rest of my life? Like, hell yeah. That's like, that sounds awesome. Like Jason Bourne on steroids or something.
Yeah.
And I was so pumped up to do it. So it just became, there was never a fail mentality that I had in my head. It was all or nothing. And I didn't really have much to go back to, which was honestly one of my biggest saving graces going through the pipeline, the SWCC schoolhouse pipeline. A lot of these guys were professional athletes, like either professional swimmers or cross country marathon runners and all these crazy dudes. Like they also had like great paying jobs before they got in. But when it came down to the pipeline, we were getting the shit beat out of us. They would just start dropping like flies. And I would listen across the street at 32nd Street. I remember listening to all the ships docked up there. 06 a.m. you could hear the muster call and you hear all the bells and whistles and whatnot. And I've been swimming in Coronado Bay for about the last 3 hours. I'm just listening. I'm like, dude, it sucks to be those guys. Like, I'd much rather be right here. So I'm like swimming through the bay.
What year did you go through? What year did you go through SWCC training?
It was 2006.
2006.
They called us class 5 shit, but we were class 5-6. And I think we go down as one of the worst SWCC classes in history.
Yeah.
We don't have a plaque up. We don't have anything. They didn't even want to remember us. They hated us so much. It was good. The funny thing was when I joined the Navy, you fly out to Great Lakes, go through the boot camp pipeline for 8 weeks. I aced that. That was easy. Just marching, doing your left and right, studying your Blue Jackets manual. Like, I love that. And when I finally got my orders cut for me to go to SWCC school, it said to fly into Coronado. There it is.
Got to keep it close by.
Yep. I remember it was 10 of us. 10 of us. We were all in this division together. You know, we thought we were like badass Billy Goats because, oh yeah, we got SWCC contracts. Like, you know, you guys just go on, do your regular Navy stuff. We were so dumb. We had these orders. So I don't know if you remember boot camp, but from boot camp, you go across the street to A school. And everyone has to go. Doesn't matter what contract you have. Doesn't matter you're going to be an astronaut, whatever. You have to go to this A school and wait for your plane ticket or wait to transfer your next command. No, that's not what we did. We went to the Gateway Inn, base, checked in for 2 weeks. So we were AWOL for 14 days until finally the MPs came and found us. And then we got I went to fire controlman school for 2 days and then shipped off to Coronado. And it got worse because when I got to Coronado, instead of going to NAB, I went to the air base. So there's 2 different compounds in North Island or in Coronado. You have like the air station, and then you have like Bud's Beach amphibious base, where the SEALs and SWCS and EOD guys train. And so we checked into the air base, and they didn't know what to do with us. Like I don't know if you can imagine, just 10 dudes in dress whites walking on to the air base, like in column formation, in step, like doing our cadence.
Sure, I can definitely imagine.
Oh,
it.
It's so bad. And then we see the first flagpole, and we go, and we salute it, and we walk into the stair deck. And I can only imagine the guys driving to work that day are like, "What the hell is that?" Yeah. So what they did with us is they actually checked us into SEER school first. So before I did any training, A school, any of that, I went straight to survival school, which was a shocker.
Over in what's it called over there?
Palm Springs. They take us out to?
It's like in that direction. I don't remember what it's called. Oh my gosh, I'm blanking on what it's called now. But in like northeastern San Diego.
Yep.
Yeah.
Like out in the deserts.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
And so I got my Geneva left and rights there. I went from 120 pounds to I was 98 pounds when I graduated.
Holy crap. Wow.
Yeah. And
wow.
I was roommates with him after SEER school, and he saw me come back. He was getting his, I think he was a search and rescue swimmer. So he was studying in the barracks there, and he saw me come back from SEER school, and he's like, "Whoa, you look like a Tales from the Crypt character." And of course, I was like, "Dude, I look shredded."
Wait, hang on one second. You froze up for a second. Who were you talking about? Who was that? Who did you see after Warner Springs?
Oh, it was Justin.
Justin. Okay, yeah, he's in the chat right now. He just said it was Warner Springs is what it's called. Warner Springs.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. Of course, he would remember. But so he was kind of if we had those terms in the Navy called the Sea Daddy.
Yeah.
Where he kind of had his wing out because he was a little older than me, and man, I looked up to him so much. I was like, dude, I don't know what to do, and I don't have a job, and I don't know. Can't read these orders. Like, where am I supposed to go? He's like, bro, you were supposed to be at NAB like 2 months ago. It's like, oh, right on.
This is a crazy story.
But that after we graduated SEER school, we ended up marching our butts down to NAB and checking into SWCC school. So we're 2 classes late. We're supposed to be in class 5-4. Ended up class 5-6. And I'll never forget the cadre. They were looking at our orders, and they're like, "We've been looking for you guys for 2 months." And we had our SWCC certificate or SEER certificate, and they're like, "Dude, this is so wrong."
Yeah, that's amazing.
But went to SWCC school in the summer, and there's a lot of things that are comparable, and there's a lot of things that are different from SWCC school and BUDS. BUDS is like SEAL training, which is a lot harder, longer. There's more qualifications, whereas SWCC, we train on the same beaches and whatnot, but we're a lot more focused on mobility, driving fast boats, heavy weapons, communication and stuff. So when I was going through this pipeline, we have phases that we get to. We have our own Hell Week. Graduated from that, got my brown shirt, as you'd say, for those of you who know what that is. But when you start off as a newbie, you're wearing a white shirt, and you get your brown shirt. You get to eat at the galley at a different table, and I blew both my ITB bands from my knee up to my hip. Like completely tore both of them on those beach runs, because you're averaging 20 miles a day. Like, people don't realize that. Like, oh, I just got to run a mile and a half in 9:30. Like, yeah, I could do that. It's like, dude, you're running 20 miles a day, like nonstop, wet, like doing all these physical things. And so I just blew my from the sand and the repetitive motion. Both my ITB bands broke, and I got rolled into the winter class, which was so I had to go through the worst phases of SWCC selection. So after I graduated that, I still graduated in 5-6. Ended up checking into Special Team 12 for the first 6 years of my career. Yeah, that was a blast from the past of how not to do it, for sure.
That's insane. I mean, that's like, I don't think you could get away with that now in 2021.
No,
just missing your 2 classes and being like going to SEER school and just hanging out at the barracks. But that does sound familiar in 2006. That does sound like something that would happen in 2006, actually. I remember those barracks out there. That was the Wild West.
Yep.
Did you? So can you tell us a little bit about kind of what those first few weeks up through the tour? So the tour is like what they call the SWCC Hell Week. Can you kind of like, what do you said you run 20 miles a day. You probably do a lot of swimming. Like, what is SWCC training really like? Like, what's a one day like before the tour? Leading up to that?
Yeah, that's a great question. I wish someone would have told me that before I no, but literally you wake up at 5 a.m. every single day, Monday through Friday. Here's the thing I didn't know, is you have the weekends off. I was surprised to find out that we had the weekends off. I thought the next how long was SWCC school is? SWCC school is almost 10 months long,
Wow.
like from beginning to finish. And I thought that that was it for me. And to have weekends off was impressive, but you basically start up at 5 a.m. All the instructor and cadre come by your barracks, and you do room inspections, you do uniform inspections, and then from there you have like an unfathomable amount of time to make it to your next evolution. So like they'll tell you there's a checkpoint 2 miles away and you need to be there in 10 minutes. You're like, I gotta change out my dress camis. I gotta put on my op camis, and I gotta run 2 miles. And you're like, as a class, you're like, this isn't gonna work. You're like, we're gonna get beat. So they set you up for all these tasks that aren't you can't complete them. They just still want to see you work through the misery and still get to your goal and objective and still do your best. And so from about, when I say getting beat, you're doing physical activities. So being wet and sandy, doing berm runs, getting wet and sandy, jumping in the beach, obstacle courses. We do the same O courses they have in Buds. We have the same timelines and everything for that. Doing surf passages, rope climbs, buddy carries, and then from there, from 9 o'clock, you have about 20 minutes to change from these dirty, wet, your dress camis again to go into the classroom. Then you're in the class from 10 to 4. And when I say it's classroom, I mean I sucked in high school. I won't even sugarcoat it. I was not a smart kid. They would give us binders, bro, that were like this thick, of just, it was, everything to know about a diesel engine, or the breaking apart of a 50 cal M2HB machine gun, or this PSC5 Delta radio system. Like everything cut down to the batteries and the wiring of it, how to fix it. Like I was so blown away. And like you said, like you could be the strongest dude there. We had more guys fail out academically than we did physically. And then you add that stress of studying for your tests, and you put that on top of trying to make your physical goals of going through the pipeline. It's a lot, because after you're beat, now you're studying. And I remember I made waterproof flashcards. So as I'm doing these berm runs and I'm just running to my next checkpoint, I'm going through my flashcards, like just trying to regurgitate everything that I was getting, just so I could pass this test. And that was your standard week, Monday through Friday. Friday was the worst day, and it was pay your dues Friday, so Frogman Fridays. But there was always a crazy monster mash involved. And when I say you're definitely gonna do a 12-mile run regardless. You're gonna do a mile swim, but they were gonna put like shooting in there and like medical triage, or they would have the radios that you learned the week prior, and you had to go and program them on the evolution. So super fun, but super challenging. And looking back at it, I still scratch my head like, how the hell did I graduate all that? But
well, that's
yeah.
I have this slogan on my t-shirts, on my store merch. It says "trained to train," and that's what that means. Like, imagine having to learn in that environment. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, you learned SWCC, curriculum, but I'm sure, and you could confirm this, but I'm sure you feel confident you could probably learn anything right now. Like, you have the ability to go train yourself and learn, and at least the self-confidence that it's possible, because you're out there learning highly technical, complicated stuff in the most strenuous environment, getting screamed at, getting in trouble, fatigued, uncomfortable, all of that. And you're still learning, like you're still educating yourself on this extremely difficult material.
You brought up a good point, and being retired now, out of the military, trying to learn a whole new trade. Now I'm into distribution, and the beverage world. It's so interesting to look back at my career, because I remember coming out being like, how are they going to use me, like this guy who, I don't know if you know the extent of what we did in our career, but like literally they would push a button 45 minutes ahead.
Hang on, can you say that again? You sorry, I don't want to interrupt. You froze up really quick. You said it again. You said push a button 45 minutes later. What'd you say?
In 45 minutes, you had to be at an airport, and you had to load the plane. You're flying to a different country for a mission, and you're getting read on as you're flying on. It's like, I went from being this this extremely task saturated guy to now building up my own, mission plans for the week of these calls I have to make and these meetings I have to have, but a new skill set that I have to learn. And it's funny the way they wired me in SWCC school, and it still holds true to this day, is the more comfortable I am in my office with, AC and like no water and everything, the less I can actually maintain the stuff that I'm bringing in. I literally have to go do something crazy. I have to go on like a hard enduro dirt bike ride, or I'll have to go lift and do something crazy. And then I'll build my office outside, or I'll do it in an environment where like things are constantly moving around me. I feel so much more comfortable, and everything has like this nice flow state to it. Whereas if I'm just sitting here in silence of, oh yeah, I got this peace and the zen, I can't get anything done, which is interesting. It's just kind of the way I feel like that's the way they wanted us to be.
I'm exactly the same way. And I've heard so many SEALs and veterans say the same thing. It's so true. I'm exactly the same way. I try to tell my wife all the time, like, I thrive in chaos. So if she walks in and I'm working, it's like there's an insane amount of things going on around me. I mean, I just need distractions, or I can't even, if without distractions, I can't do the thing that I'm focused on. And it's hard for people to understand. Not everybody's like this. Not everyone is the same way. But what you're saying really resonates with me, which is I do my best when everything is going crazy. Like when there's a lot of distractions, a lot of noise, background noise bothering me, tasks saturated, I then am able to finally get stuff done. And all of a sudden, it's like I just know things and I don't even know how I know them. It's like all the things that I've been learning, that I've been studying, all of a sudden click and I've got it in the moment. You know what I mean? But it's because of training that leads up to that, because you've been studying, because you've been learning. And I'm like, how do I even know all this stuff? Like, what's going on? It's this weird thing that happens in the right situation. I'm just like, oh, I got it now. I need to be in that stress. The stress creates the best output for me. And that's what it sounds like you're kind of saying too. And, or at least you need to have some kind of additional stimulus to get the task done that you're doing. It is so interesting. I would love to have somebody who's qualified to explain that to us on here and pick that apart. But that is really, really fascinating that is something that we share. That's really cool. So, awesome. so you go through. Can you tell us a little bit about like what the tour is when on SWCC, like the mini Hell Week?
Say that again. You froze up.
Oh yeah, sorry. So the tour, they call it the mini Hell Week, but it's still extremely difficult for SWCC training. Can you tell us like a little bit about, without, spilling the beans on what it is? I'm sure a lot of it's, kept under wraps, like SEER School the same way, but kind of what is expected out of, so SWCC members go through the tour. What does that mean? Because everyone knows, oh man, that's a SEAL. They did Hell Week, which is like still just one part of the whole thing. But for SWCC, it's the tour. So if somebody sees a SWCC, they went through the tour. What is the tour?
So the tour is basically a culmination of 8 weeks of training within navigation, using charts, to basic boat mechanics of how to work an outboard, to, again, like radio detail. So they train these guys up. It's called basic crewman school. And it's like the entry level to becoming a SWCC. So you're learning nautical navigation, you're learning time, speed, distance drills, and they have all these different checkpoints or missions that they make for the next, I want to say it's 3 or 4 days. And it really depends on the team and how long it takes you. But as a boat crew, you have all these objectives that you have to hit. And looking back at it, you travel over 200 nautical miles during the whole stint. You're swimming at least 20 miles. You're doing, I think you're running a marathon. You run 23 miles in the stint of these 3 days. So you're not sleeping, but you have to mentally perform all these tasks. So there'd be like a down boat, and you'd have to go in and figure out what was wrong with the boat and fix this Caterpillar diesel engine and figure out that it was, this one circuit, the breaker that wasn't plugged in. Like they do all these crazy things. Whereas if you don't figure it out, you don't get to move on. And you will definitely get rolled back a class if you don't pass the tour. I'll never forget I'll give you a little a token. Is there's one part of the tour. I was about 3:00 in the morning. We're pumping up what's called Zodiacs. They're the black rubber inflatable boats, carrying them to the schoolhouse. And as we get to the schoolhouse, we go in, and we're wet. We're just finished a swim. Boat. We have a 55 horsepower engine in the boat. We go into the schoolhouse, and it's like 90 degrees in there. So they crank the heater all the way up, and then we had to pass the Coast Guard regulations 100-ton master course. So it's I want to say there was six regs. You had your 72 call regs. You also had, gosh, it's going back, but it's the Coast Guard exam, and you're learning about different boots. It's like lawyer talk when you're reading these call regs and you're taking this exam, and it's a pass or fail exam. There's over 400 questions. The room is super hot, and as my instructor walks in, we're all beat, we're exhausted, we're cold, or no, we're warm now, and he plays like this classical music in the background, and I watch guys, and their heads are just slapping off the desk, just trying to stay awake. So just yeah, and what it did at least for me personally, is just made me laugh at the suck. Like the more miserable the evolution or the mission that I was on or whatever I did, there was just a chuckle that came upon me of being like, this is it. This sucks, but it's pretty hilarious to watch people in that condition, and myself included, trying to stay awake during the exams. But you could just expect a hellish beatdown of chafing between all your areas of sand grit, just grinding your armpits and your quads, and complete muscle failure where you can't do another push-up, you can't do another squat, you can barely walk, to 2 hours later you're back on your feet running again. It's impressive to see what the human body can do under those circumstances, and in that you really get to see an individual, what they have inside of them. Like, how do they keep pushing? And that was, I don't know if it was because I was so statistical or the way my mindset was, but I would watch these big like studs just fail out and quit. And I remember I would look up to a lot of these guys. A lot of these guys would, pick their brains and like, dude, how can I change this time, or how can I do this differently? And seeing them quit, I'm like, what are you doing? Like, I'm just this 17-year-old kid. I was looking up to you, like, now who am I going to look up to? But as they dropped away, we had 43 guys in my class, and we graduated with 6. So
wow.
The nutrition rate is intense, but it really just takes a different type of person, a different character of a man to see if they would enjoy that type of environment. It's not for everybody, but a lot of that SWCC school stuff, as funny as it was looking back at it, it's so impressive to see how applicable it was into being active duty in the SWCC community, doing actual missions on targets. There were so many times I lived on a 40-foot dhow for 60 days, and I would pull into a town that's never seen a white person before and eat random food, but you're stuck in mud. And there's no one there to help you. Everything's miserable, and you kind of just have to, like I say, go with the flow. Learn a lot of that from SWCC school, even though you're not actually doing that. A lot of it rolls over. So there is method behind the madness, if I can put it correctly.
It's funny that you say that, because there was a question in the chat about how does being asked to fix an engine help you prepare for war. And aside from the fact that you might have a broken boat out in the middle of the water that you need to fix, or you're going to be, cast away at sea, lost at sea, just drifting. It's also about, performing under pressure. And that's one of the number one, we already kind of touched on it, but one of the number one skills that boot camp prepares you for on one level, but then really special forces training prepares you for on a whole nother level, is how to continue to just move forward and do something, even when you're losing, even when you're in pain, even when you're completely tired, when nothing's going your way. And it's just about like, there's no stopping, right? Like in real life, there's no stopping in the real world. So if you're in a real life situation, you have a broken engine, nobody's coming down from heaven. The sky isn't going to open and Jesus comes down with an engine. You know what I mean? Like you have to keep going.
Training time out, guys. Hold on, my engine went down. Stop shooting.
Yeah. Or your gun malfunctions, and you have a great story about that. And you just you have to just keep going and at least keep trying, you know, until you have nothing left, you know. So you go into the fleet, SPT-12, which is out of San Diego, and you did some deployments. You talked about doing some real world operations. Did you do some deployments out there?
Yeah, all my deployments were to HOA, so it was the east coast of Africa, and at the time piracy was huge. So we made it our mission to train we called it KSBU, the Kenyan Special Boat Unit, out there in Manda Bay or in Kenya. And our job was to really just train partner forces. We called it FID, Formal Internal Defense, but to train them with the skill sets to be able to protect and maintain their own borders. And so I did that for about 6 years. Was fluent in Swahili, which was pretty awesome. But
nice.
I also got to work with some partner forces and get integrated into joint military exercises, or we call them exercises, but joint military missions or training evolutions.
Right.
And yeah, so I did that until 2012, so about 6 years. And I was actually gonna get out. I went through TAPS. I was gonna go to SDSU. My wife was pretty adamant about me getting out, and I was a big surfer advocate and loved Volkswagens and all this. So I was like, you know what, I could get out, and I loved my. Wanted to do more. That was the honesty to God approach, and didn't matter what team I was going to go to, like especially as a tier 3 operator. But I just wanted to be. It wasn't what I was expecting. I was expecting explosions and firefights every other night, and so I decided I was going to get out. But my master chief at the time was like, no. So he sent me on an augment deployment with another unit, with a tier 1 unit, and ended up extending my military career for until 2018. Where, unfortunately got cancer and had my lung removed and got forced to medically retire. But
yeah, so that's a big part of your story, right? Like, and I know a lot of people who are listening right now, who will listen to this in the future, will be able to. Everyone's known people affected by cancer. If you don't mind telling us kind of how that came to be, that diagnosis, and what followed, and how you're doing up to like kind of what's going on with that now, or how are you doing?
Yeah, well, I'm doing great. First off, we'll start it off that way. I've been in a remission ever since. So I was a surgical cure. I got my lung taken out, and that was able to remove all the lymph nodes and where the tumors were attached to. So I had lung cancers. I think I said that multiple times, but the way they found it was so strange. I was running 5.5 minute miles I'd run at least 10 miles a day. I had to run. If I didn't run, it was just, my mind wouldn't be clear and I'd get all fogged up. And so I lived up to my name. I was fast. And of course, being in my community, you have to be physically, what do you call, up to par. Like you would get called out immediately if you slacked in a department, and there was no sympathy to the guys. Even if you ate healthy in the team rooms, like really, you're gonna drink that or you're gonna eat that? And then of course you go out at night and you see everyone partying. You're like, come on, man. But
so true. It's so true.
But so I really pushed my body to its utmost limit, and I was at the peak of my physical physique, or as best as I could get. And I did a routine. Every 5 years, you have to do a jump physical because of the nature of our work. And hold on.
Sure.
No, not right now. What is that?
Got family stuff.
What is it?
Kiddos.
No, you can't have that. That's spicy.
What is it?
It's spicy sauce. They'll end up like you if they put that in their ramen.
That's not what they want.
Come here.
What are these?
This is paint. This is not to eat. This is paint. That's for school. All right, go out. Daddy's on a show. You want to say hi?
Hi. How's it
All
going?
right, now beat it. This is Jax. This is my 5-year-old. That's the Budman. All right, get out of here.
That's awesome.
Sorry about that.
That's awesome.
No
worries.
So we do every 5 years have to do a jump physical. They just do an X-ray over your lungs. They do a head evaluation because, I'm really thankful that they do, because they actually found 2 massive growths on my right lung, almost attached to lymph nodes. So it was in a very scary place. For those who don't know, lung cancer is one of the deadliest cancers, because you don't know you'll have it until it's too late. So most people that get diagnosed with lung cancer in stage 4 get the effects, and you start the coughing. Whereas I was thankful that they caught it. They couldn't call it stage 1 because where I was at, but it was like a stage 1B/D. But from the lymph nodes, if the cancer cells get into there, then it goes straight to the brain, and then you're kind of left in a bad state. So my surgeons were awesome. I went down to Duke. Where is that? In North Carolina. The Duke Medical Center. And they had performed my lobectomies, and that was all thanks to the Navy SEAL Foundation, who really took care of me. But that whole extent of cancer was brutal on just me, my family, my career. I would never expect me in a billion years to be that one guy with lung cancer. I never smoked. It just caught everyone off guard. But yeah, so I got diagnosed with cancer. And then before I even got diagnosed, which was the hard part, is because I was so young, I was physically fit. They would not diagnose me with adenocarcinoma. Like, even though I had the tumors and they saw it, they're like, it has to be something else, because we don't see these in people as young as you, and especially at where I was in life. And so they did a bunch of wedge resections and needle biopsies and all these tests. And what ultimately happened is I bled out internally through a procedure, lost 40% of blood in my chest cavity, I had a full tension pneumothorax on my left lung, because my right side was so full of blood that it collapsed my left lung while I was at home. Got life flighted, and after they stabilized that condition, that alone physically made me unfit for military service. So they had to do like this thing called a thoracotomy, where they scrub the insides of my chest cavity because of the blood clots. Have you ever sit on your foot for too long, where you get all those pins and needles, where your foot goes numb or your leg goes numb? That's my chest from my clavicle all the way down to my lower diaphragm. It's just stuck in pins and needles. And so if I get anything to touch or graze, or like a seatbelt, it's like that excruciating, like, don't touch me kind of feeling. So after that, the Navy SEAL Foundation came in, and my command came in, and they're like, no more, you're going to the best. So they sent me down to Duke, where they performed my lobectomies, and then I was a surgical cure, which was awesome to hear. But I breathe on one lung, which makes running, I won't say impossible, because I still get frustrated where I go out for a run. I end up paying for it later, but it's just not in my deck of cards anymore. But I think we talked on it beforehand about our conditions, whereas I do have physical limitations that I cannot go above this limit anymore, but that doesn't stop me from trying to achieve my goals. So I know I'm not going to run a 5.5 minute mile anymore, but I'm still going to do a mile. And that's kind of how it started, in baby steps and in phases. When I got medically retired from the Navy, I decided that with my best friends, I came up with an idea. My focus and my mission in life were, of course, veterans, because of my ties to the SEAL team community. Volkswagens, which I just love Volkswagens. I love the feel, the camping, the nostalgia behind Volkswagens, and I love telling and hearing stories and empowering others. So we traveled. We decided to sell all of our things. My wife and I and our 2 kids. We sold all of our belongings and moved into a Volkswagen bus for a year. And as we did that, my mission was to get veteran stories of service members that got out. Didn't matter what happened to them, they just got out, and those who started a successful business, or became a successful entrepreneur. And I wanted to pick their brains and have them. I shared all my stories on Facebook. There's this funny journey about how van life really is, especially with toddlers. But I want to share people that have that perspective, because we all hear like, oh, you get out of the military from being a special forces operator, you're set for life. Like contractors, you'll be making money. Like people will be calling you, going on secret mission. Like, dude, none of that exists. I remember one of my friends told me, he's like, oh, dude, you're a swick. He's like, man, when you get out, like Google will just hire you because you're such a cool dude. And I was like, dude, they didn't even look at my resume. It's like, it was such a scary world to come out and try to figure out how I was going to take all these skill sets and translate them over. And the biggest thing my wife taught me at that time, she said, screw your skill sets. She goes, who are you? What makes you happy? Like, what are the things that you enjoy in your life? What are the things that you hold on to? She's like, that's your identity. That's who you are. Like, you're not a SWCC. You're not a special forces guy. She's like, you're my husband, but you're also so good at so many other things. She's like, that was just a stepping stone. It built you up. You have great stories you can share, but you have so many other things you can bring to the table. So the Volkswagen series kind of cinema deal we did for a year really helped solidify that I just love people, and I'm very extroverted. I love conversations, sharing stories, and so in that I landed this position with Killcliff, where I speak about our brand, what we do for the Navy SEAL Foundation, which we just topped our $1 million goal, which is huge, and that, yeah, I don't know if that answers. I kind of just went on a tyrant there, but
no, that's great. There was a few things in there that were so good that I want to kind of roll back to. One is you started listing the things that you love, which for people out there listening, one of the main things that people in the military struggle with post-military transition, we can talk about transition, is a new purpose. And it's frightening because when so much of your identity is wrapped up in being a SWCC, being a SEAL, being a sailor, a Marine, you leave that community. You're not in it anymore, not actively. And not only do you wonder if you're going to be happy, but you wonder if the people around you are going to view you the same way. It's like when you said your wife tells you, hey, you're not, Billy Badass anymore. You're not active duty SWCC, special forces. That's not you anymore. Well, it's frightening to think that your wife might not think that about you anymore. It's I'm just speaking for myself, and you can tell me if this resonates with you at all or to people in the chat. It's frightening to think that your friends might not view you as, going out on missions, going out on training, picking up in the middle of the night and going on a trip out of nowhere. Like, that's cool. And it's kind of something to, you gloat about it a little bit. Like, you're like, oh yeah, I got to go. Something's come up. You know what I mean? And,
right.
And the people around you are like, damn, look at him go. And then if you're not that, what makes you remarkable, or what else do you have? Do you have anything else? Is there any more to you under the surface? Like, these are just thoughts that I've had. And I hear it from a lot of people that you have to find your next purpose. So you have to find your next purpose. So you start listing things, and it sounds like you took the time to do the hard work of going, what do I love? What's next? What's going to give my life purpose and meaning? That's a conscious effort, is it not?
It is, and a diagnosis, and that really helps you. It helped bring a focus of the things that I really do hold dear. Of course, family, but military career was huge for me. That was my identity, and I still hold on to a lot of the things that I learned in my career. But I look at it more as a reference, more than an identity anymore. Whereas, and I think I have to do that because being at that level as an operator, and maybe this is for some of the people who do want to get in or do want to try it, there's so much glory that you get from graduating a prestigious command or a strategic, selection phase like that. But, hold on.
Oh, you're good.
No.
Family first.
No. Go away.
Family first.
Yeah. But what was I saying?
There's the prestige of finishing, a difficult selection.
Yeah. So and what I've seen, and this is just speaking ad lib, especially being in the community for so long, is we had that made man syndrome where guys would graduate from selection phase and think that they were now hot shit and like the whole world was their oyster, when it wasn't true. They haven't been on one mission, they haven't done one deployment, like they haven't seen combat. There's so many things that they didn't make, but just because they graduated from a prestigious selection phase, like now we're here. Whereas none of that's true. Like there's still so much to learn in growing up in the community, and then growing up in my community to where I got to at a tier 1 unit. Like looking back at it, I never looked back at it and being like, yes, like I'm the top, I'm the best, like there's nothing more for me. It was just honor. I was so honored and pleased to be where I was, but there was something missing for sure, and it was striving to be the best. Like the glorification. Like I wouldn't stop pushing just to get where I was. To whereas now when I'm out of the military, looking back at it, like I did need that, but I see so many guys that come out that it's just so toxic. They're stuck in this performance-based mentality where they have to keep reaching like the craziest goals, otherwise their life's not complete. And I saw myself going down that pathway when I got out. I guess that's the best way to wrap it up. Is I needed to do extreme things. I needed to represent the brotherhood as best as I could. And I remember I was like a mess. I was coming to work. I had IVs on me, and I was just like, "Yeah, what's up, brothers?" They're like, "What the hell are you doing here, Tat? You're dying." I was like, "No, I'm just here to motivate you guys. Like, I want to pump you guys up. Like, if I can do it, you can do it." And they're like, "Dude, get the hell." And I only say that because I don't want people to join with the wrong impression or the wrong mentality in their heads of like, as long as I make it through the selection phase, like I have everything that I need to make it into the career, and I'll be set. I'll be so satisfied with my life that there's nothing left, and everyone will be proud of me. When I graduated, no one came to my graduation. Like I was like, this is the biggest time of my career, and there's no one here. And I remember feeling somber and looking back at it, but yeah, just make sure if you go in, it's not just about graduating from a selection phase. It's really, and I hate to throw that term out, but it is really, what can I do for my country, and what history am I going to make? Like my actions and implications of things that I put forth in my training overseas are going to change the battlefield. That's how I kept thinking. Is like, that is why I'm here, and I'm not here just to gloat about my career or about my qualifications or my awards or my medals. Like I could care less about that. And unfortunately, I've seen a lot of that in the teams where it kind of corrupted the brand or the image. But yeah, so go in with a smile and know you're going to make a difference.
That's great. You speaking of making a difference, you're doing something now. You're doing a climb. Can you kind of tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah. So I joined a group of banged up vets like myself, and we have some amputees. We have the world's strongest man, Steve Foshin, for 4 years in running in his age group. I think he's 56 now, and he's still competing. And we also have two veterans that are diagnosed with CRPS, which is a chronic regional pain syndrome diagnosis, where they live in constant pain, like to the point where they can't even talk or remember their name. It's disability. But we came together because our best friend Steve blew out both his quads on his last contest in January, and I believe he's 56 now. And myself and Asaf Dori, he's a IDF veteran, so he's an Israeli Special Forces operator. He lost his leg, and him and I are really good friends. And we remember that feeling of, I will say my whole identity was in my career, having it taken from me for something that wasn't my fault. And I remember spiraling down this hole of nothing, of just, I don't know what to do. I don't know who I am. Like, we remember that feeling. It came back so strong for us because we saw Steve going through it. And there's no amount of like, hey, buddy, you're going to be okay, or you got this. Like there was no amount of sympathy or empathy you could give a warrior like that to bust him out of that hole. What we did do is we came up with a stupid mission, and that's just the way we're wired. We're like, dude, let's put a mission in September. Let's go climb the highest mountain in Colorado. So it's called Mount Albert. It's 14,446 feet, and what that did for not just Steve. I mean, we all learned something in our training programs just to where we're at now. We did it for our brother to to get him out of his mental funk, and it just became something so much bigger, because now we're doing it to show veterans, and not just veterans, first responders, or anybody. There's so many people that get put into our situation, more people than I wish we would actually do, and we want to show them how easy it is just to bring a community around you, a mission set in mind, and you can go out and crush it. So that's what we're doing. We're getting together. We're going to hike it on September 15th, which is going to be pretty awesome. Everyone's been training super hard, myself included. The hard part for me is like Steve, like you can see his scars from the top of his quads down to his knees. Soft's got one leg. Shannon's like she's got all these braces that come up her legs. She can't walk. And then you have me in all the videos, and I'm just smiling, just walking with these dudes because no one knows I'm messing along. Like I look perfectly normal in all of our pictures, and I keep telling my buddy Asaf, I was like, dude, you need to give me your stump or your leg. So when we take a picture, I can just hold like a prosthetic or something. It looked somewhat messed up, but yeah, I'm stoked. I'm stoked we're doing it. It's gonna be awesome, not just for all of us, but I've heard so many stories of other people now that have one lung, or that are going through lung cancer, or worried about their next lobectomy, and they're like, dude, we saw your, that was my main focus, was I wanted to provide hope for somebody. And I got one message on Instagram from one person going through cancer, about to go through a lobectomy, and he's like, I just saw your Mount Everest challenge, and you're gonna climb the highest mountain. He's like, I'm sitting here, and I know like once I get out of here, like I can go and do those things. And I was like, yeah, you can. I was like, you don't got to worry about it. I mean, you need to fight that cancer and get rid of it, and stay motivated. But the world's still your oyster when you get out. You just have to adapt and overcome. I'm going to bring oxygen. So.
And just so everyone knows, it's not Mount Everest, in case anybody is hearing that because of our audio on here on Zoom. Can you spell it? It's Mount Everest?
Elbert.
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 Mount Elbert.
Mm.
Yeah.
And that is that's on your Instagram, which I posted in the comments. There's a little short film about that, and people can go check that out and support, show some support. And you were raising money through Kill Cliff. Do you want to talk about Kill Cliff at all and what you're doing with Kill Cliff?
So Kill Cliff was so with Kill Cliff, my running joke is I'm the assistant to the regional. For those of you who haven't watched The Office or not, but
Dwight.
I'm a regional manager for Kill Cliff, and what that means is I manage their relationships between distributors. So you have your standard beer distributors that distribute Coors and Anheuser-Busch. Nowadays, they're bringing on non-alcoholic products like ours. How I got into this role was, of course, my huge love and affiliation to the Navy SEAL Foundation for everything that they've done for me and my family. I mean, they paid our hospital bills. They paid for travel for my wife, my friends. They bought my kids Christmas presents, which it was insane. I couldn't believe the amount of support that this organization did. They came to my house three times a week and cleaned my house. I'm just head over heels for this foundation. So while I was doing my van series, of course, I was looking for a sponsor. I watched a bunch of YouTube. Wanted to do something around that limelight, but of course, being in the sports, you don't have social media, you don't have a presence, you don't have your name out there, so it's really difficult. And I was also doing all these veteran transition group programs. One of them, which is huge for guys, is called the Honor Foundation, where it teaches you how to wear suits and how to talk and how to build a resume and how to successfully pull yourself out there to transition out. And another one I did was Elite Meet, which is they just put you in front of a bunch of executives and try to get you hired. But none of those jobs really rang true to me. I didn't have a huge motivational drawing to become a financial planner or a real estate investor. And what in the world? What? No. I said no. No.
Take care of
Go
family
play.
stuff.
Oh, jeez. What? You can have one popsicle.
It's pretty good. It's pretty good. Pretty good deal.
So through Elite Meet, I got the rare opportunity to go to meet Gary V, which is Gary Vaynerchuk. He is a very outspoken social media influencer, owns his own media enterprise. But I got to sit with him and his staff, and it was a bunch of special forces operators all in the same room: SEALs, SWCC pilots, recon dudes from you name it. Like there's some Green Berets in there. It was a good spread. And they walk into the room, they look around, they said, "What the hell are you guys doing here? Like you're the most qualified, like most uniquely badass people in the world, and yet you're here sitting in an office. You guys and ask you guys for opinions. Yet you're here asking us what to do next." And that kind of threw me for a loop. Again, my wife was a huge motivational factor of like who I want to be, what I was going to do, and Gary basically gave me his slide deck of how he cut up media and distributed media into different places, and did his LinkedIn and Instagram and Facebook, and from there I told him about my van series, and that ultimately led me to getting sponsored by Killcliff, and that was huge for me because now I get to give back as like and this was the mindset I took on. I was like, every can that I get into a veteran's hand or a new person's hand that they get to try out, that's like, say it was 50 cents to the Navy SEAL Foundation per can. I was like, I'm giving back to my guys. We're still out there fighting for me and and fighting for our country. And that motivated the heck out of me. So I traveled the entire country selling Killcliff at every exchange and military installation. And when I broke down here in Colorado, I ended up getting a phone call. That's when I got hired as a regional. But it's so awesome to be aligned with something that you're motivated to. So it's not just work for me. It's a lifestyle. So I know that what I do makes a difference for my guys. I still get to keep my foot into the Spec Ops community. But I get to do it because I know that if one of my guys gets injured or one of my guys gets sick, I have all the resources available, and I'm also providing them. Like we made over $1 million for the SEAL Foundation this year, and now partnering up with Joe Rogan and the UFC this year, we're just going to skyrocket from there. So what a fun little tidbit of a company. An energy drink company is doing so much.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's awesome.
It's a kind of a full circle story that you got to be now a part of fundraising for a foundation that helped you, which is going to go back and help other people, which is really awesome.
Yep. Like everybody love everybody.
ELE. You've got a lot going on now, and just so everyone's clear, you're in remission from cancer, right?
I am. I'm still trying to figure out this nerve damage bit. So I do post on Instagram a bunch. They're doing it. I'm somber on social media. I always try to do it to provide hope, but I suffer from chronic pain as well, and so I'm doing experimental procedures, and I'm gonna get an implant here soon. But so the side effects from surgery is what I'm still suffering through. But cancer free, which is badass, and yeah, I went through a bit of COVID last year.
Oh no.
Yeah, I've been through a lot with this one lung.
We lost you there for a second, but you said you got COVID last year?
I did. Yeah, I got COVID real bad, especially having one lung. And then it ended up putting 50% scar tissue on my left lung.
Oh, no.
So I was breathing at 26% overall for my VO2 max. And I was the interesting part of it, I guess you could look at me as the silver lining, guys. I was left in a state of hypoxia, so everything was pretty funny to me. Drove my wife and all my friends nuts, but I couldn't breathe, and it was I remember saying, I was like, man, if this is what it's like to die, I mean, this is pretty good. Like I feel pretty good. um, but I'm on a road to recovery there. And for those of you who are wondering about the after effects of going through that virus, it is completely, you can reverse from it. So I had all that scar tissue in my lung, and I live up at 8,000 feet. I ride hard enduro dirt bikes up at 13,000 feet. And I was able to remove 90% of all my scar tissue just from physical activity.
That's awesome.
Of course, taking ashwagandha roots and a bunch of anti-inflammatories, and my wife feeds me ginger every day and garlic, but that's pretty awesome.
There's really something to be said about the best medicine is diet and exercise. It's like this is different. This is like a tangent, but I'm always talking about on a show, like people aren't supposed to be sick. They're supposed to be healthy. So many diseases are caused by our sedentarianism, diet, narcotics, including prescription narcotics, alcohol, everything. So just a heads up to everybody out there, make sure you're just taking care of yourself, because if you take care of yourself, you have a better chance to fight like you have. You're a fighter, obviously. I mean, that goes without saying. You've been fighting a lot of things for a long time. And you had there's got to be something to, I believe personally that there's something to the spirit, like your own personal, like your personal drive, your will to beat COVID, to beat cancer, a positive mental attitude, and a belief in your ability to successfully do it, and a reason, like your family, your mission, all of that are factors to this. I personally believe that. There's reason to believe that that's true. So
1,000%. I looked at my kids, and I was like, I want my kids to know that their dad was a fighter, and he never gave up, and he always pushed through. And that was going through cancer. I woke up with a chaplain standing over me at Portsmouth Naval, and I was done. That was it. He was praying for me. I also had guys, will, and to want to make sure everything was in line, which it was. And it was a somber moment. I remember the chaplain saying, where do you want your kids to go to school? And how do you envision your kids? Like, what kind of sports do you think your two boys are going to get into? And of course, I'm high out of my mind on Dilaudid, and I didn't know I was that bad until I looked around. And I remember kind of smiling to him, and I said, like, I appreciate the prayers, Doc, or not Doc, but chaplain, but I'm getting out of here, because I was raised fatherless. I never had a dad, and I wasn't going to do that to my kids no matter what. And even if I did, I wanted to remember that I did put up the good fight, and I wasn't trying to abandon them or just give up. And that was my fighting struggle through COVID, and it's everything about my life now. Whereas being in the special forces where I was, it's sad to say this, but my family did not come first. It really, everything, the mission was first. My country came before everything. And if they needed me, I was ready to go at 1,000%. To whereas now, I finally get to let back and say, like, this is what really makes me happy, is my family. This is what I really, truly love. And this is who I get to put above everything else. And when I have that in my mindset, I mean, the military, having my brothers next to me pushed me to do the most insane, amazing physical, like amazing things. And the missions that we completed on, the things that we got to do together, like we really did some things that highly impacted the world for the best. And where now I get to do that for my kids. It's just a whole different perspective. But yeah, you do take care of your body, take care of your mind. Take care of your mind. Make sure it's a big one. Just don't scroll through Instagram for 12 hours a day. You need to take care of this thing, man, because this thing runs the rest of it. If you can get this in line with it, the rest will follow. It will. Even if you have, like my buddy doesn't have a leg, and he's still climbing a mountain because this is there. We can find ways to adapt and overcome, succeed. So,
dude, you had me about to cry. I had tears in my eyes. Talking about, you grew up without a dad. You're not going to let your kids grow up without a dad. That's powerful stuff. And I hope everyone's listening, because that's a great story. I hope everyone's getting a lot out of that, because it's heroic, courageous, whatever you want to call it. Just, unbelievable. You said they brought in a will for you to verify at one point.
Oh yeah.
You said something else there too, that when you were in the Navy, it's tough to admit. I've heard a lot of people say this after the military, that they realize, the truth is that you're active duty, you're training for combat, you're training to live so that you can be there for your family. And as a result, your family's not always coming first. You're missing moments, obviously birthdays and, baseball games and some of that cliche stuff, but it's all true. It's all real. Then you've got a spouse at home who is handling business, hopefully, a strong spouse at home, which is a huge part of it. And as a dependent now, I hear that one. I've been on both sides of the fence now, I guess. And you talked about you've got a buddy with no leg who keeps walking. You've got friends with no arms who keep, building. People who have lost, eyes, hearing. They keep going. They keep figuring it out. And that having known people, I have met you now, having known people who've walked around with a hook for an arm, who've walked around with prosthetic legs, and they just never stop. It's like the legacy of the veteran community. I feel so lucky to have met people like you, because it makes me not, believe and see with my own eyes that it's possible, that nothing can stop you if you believe in it. If you believe in yourself, if you believe that that's true, nothing can stop you. There's always a way to keep going. And for us as veterans, how dare we ever think that we've reached our limits or can't do it? Because it, waves the middle finger in the face of triple and quadruple amputees who are proving you wrong. People living with chronic pain,
100%.
people like you. So how dare I ever consider that things are getting, difficult, too difficult, woe is me. Anytime those thoughts creep into my mind about anything, I just think, how dare I? I have no right. There's ways around everything, and you just are sharing more examples of that, and it's incredible. And I want to thank you for being inspirational to myself and everyone listening.
Yeah, man, you crushed it. That was it, dude. You're nailing it on the head. Just keep pushing forward.
Yeah, there's examples all around us in life. Everyone's going through something, but I've never seen anything like what the people I've met in the military have overcome. Like unbelievable obstacles. I was just total side note. The team sergeant I was deployed with in ODA in Afghanistan. The team sergeant was cancer survivor, and he went back to combat. Afterwards, he was lucky he was able to stay in. He was, it was like something he was able to have removed and go through treatment. And you hear about people get medically retired all the time. It's just it's inspirational. To anybody out there going through something, make sure you are out seeking out people like Dash who will remind you that you can overcome it. That's my message to the audience there.
That's what we're here for.
Do you, so we've been going for about an hour and 10 minutes. Usually around an hour, I start to ask, is there anything we didn't get to that you want to get to?
No, I think we talked about it. I mean, were there any questions that we missed? I'd be happy to answer any questions if anyone had any questions.
The only question we can maybe lighten the mood for a second before we get ready to sign out is, people have been asking me to ask you, and I wasn't sure if I should or not. And you don't have to answer it, but you're out of the Navy now. You're a civilian.
Yep.
First female SWCC. Do you have any thoughts on that? What did you think when you heard the news?
Yeah. Well, I'm out now, so it don't matter, right?
Yeah.
Well, first off, that's awesome. That's all I got. I will say that with my hat off, like it's impressive, bar none. Like to make it through, male or female, but especially female, like the only female. That's a feat in itself. Better hang with the boys. I do have some concerns of my own, but those are just personal concerns about being out in theater. that I know, like I said, there are challenges that are going to come up, but I know there are ways to overcome them. I just don't know how they're going to do that. Warfare is a different mindset to have. There's different. I guess the best way I can put it is there's different things that can happen to an individual, male or female, in captivity. There's different things that would play into more of the missions that we'd go on. So it would be harder for sure for what they're going to have to do, but I don't think she's going to have any limitations in her SWCC career because once you graduate, I mean, there's just so much work that needs to be done. So do I have a yay or nay say, like, should they be in, should they be on? I really don't know. I don't know the answer. What I would say is we need more people like her to graduate. Like, we need more people to step up to the plate. We need more men. We need more women, whoever you are. We do need that type of person, that type of person that she is that graduated, to step up to the plate and say, I can do this. I need to do this for my country, because we are hurting on the numbers side. But yeah, I'll be curious to see how her career goes. That's to say the least. But
yeah, we'll see. We'll stand by for her. We'll stand by for her book after she gets out.
Right?
It's
the video game.
The video game. The video game. Totally.
Dude, what was it? There was that game. I think it was Call of Duty. They came out with one of the Call of Duties, and I'm not a huge gamer, and I get to watch some of the games that you play, and you're pretty skilled.
Oh.
You whoop my ass for sure. But one of the games, it showed like a full-on mission, boat drop into theater, off the coast of Africa, fighting pirates, and then like driving off and getting to an AFSB. I watched the whole scene, and I called the guys over. I was like, dude, this is a video game. It's the craziest shit ever.
You saw
video games and the stuff that they come out with.
You saw something basically out of your own real life in the video game.
100%, and like to the point where I'm looking at the gear and I'm looking at the tactics and I'm watching them jump out, and when they jump out, like I'm watching they even have like the wave offs like we do and like the different formation calls. I'm like, it's like, dude.
That's why people got in all that trouble for it.
Yeah.
We'll see. We'll see. It's yeah. Well, I remember being in Naval Special Warfare when all that went down, and a lot of briefings from Commodores about don't do it, basically. So we'll see. We'll see what happens with that. I want to thank Harry Line Pie. He sent out a $5 super chat, which I'm going to use to buy some Killcliff later. I'm going to go find some Killcliff at the exchange out here in Okinawa, and I'm going to buy a can. I'm going to tag you on Instagram, Dash.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
And
man, I appreciate that.
Yeah, and I guess we're near the end here. I want to thank everyone for watching, and I especially want to thank Dash for being with us. I'd love to have you back on and talk some sea stories sometime. Now that people have got to know your life story, we can maybe have you back on and get down to the nitty gritty about some of the sea stories. What do you think?
Oh man, I mean, his hair didn't just turn white by itself. We got some salt in there we can lay down. There's some. Let me tell you, zip ties and duct tape go a long way.
All right. Oh man. Okay. Teaser for the next one. Do you got anything you want to say before we sign out here?
Dude, it's just such a pleasure, and I love everything you're doing. I love watching your show. I love your content. But I especially love your energy you threw out there. It's so positive and invigorating. And I'm really truly honored that you reached out to me to come on your show. So it means a ton to me. And man, you're making a difference. Like, to all these guys who are thinking about getting in, watching your show. I mean, that's so impactful what you're doing and giving them the right information. So keep going, and thanks for all that you do.
Wow. Thank you very much. Well, thank you. I want to say thank you to HNAU, who just sent a $25 super chat. So that's going to buy a lot of Killcliff for sure. Thank you very much. I really appreciate that. Extremely humbling support from the community who tunes in every day to watch you and people like you and who've honored me with their time. It's really incredible, and I really appreciate it very much, very much. I'm extremely looking forward to the next time we can get you on, and I'm going to be here, keep going and going, doing my thing to try to spread some good news, spread some motivation, whatever it is. But I could never do as much for people as what you've probably done today, which is just telling our own true stories is what people really need to hear, right? I think I can trash talk the Air Force all day. I can commentate on games, but this is the important stuff is people's true stories are what we really always go back to, I think, for inspiration and motivation and our view of the world. That's where it comes from, for me at least. So you've done a lot for me today. So thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
And with all that being said, I want to thank the audience for being here, the ScuttleButt community. Thank you very much. I want to thank Dash. Thank you very much, Dash. It's great to meet you. I want to thank Justin for connecting us. It was a no-brainer to invite you on the show. I was nervous. Because I feel like, talking to you, it's a big ask to ask someone to share, a couple hours with me. And I hope I do a good job. And I'm humbled that you would agree. So thank you very much. And with that being said, I'll be back tomorrow, 1800 Pacific Standard Time, regular ScuttleButt Show episode. And until then, that's the ScuttleButt.
What you just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard. At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought. Everyone in this room is now dumber for having listened to it. I award you no points, and may God have mercy on your soul.